Should I start? Can I start? יום יבוא, יום יבוא, במהרה בקרוב הוא יבוא, זאת ידע כל אדם בעמקי לבבו. יום יבוא, יום יבוא, יום יבוא, יום יבוא, יום יבוא, הוא קרב והולך בנתיבו.
Shabbat Shalom. Yom Yavo. Those are the words that the cantor just sang in the refrain of the Israeli music. A day will come, a day of peace, a day of justice. Martin Luther King bestowed a severe critique on our society, but like the prophets of old, he also spoke of hope and dreams and the long arc of the moral universe bending toward justice, slowly, but toward increased justice and equality. We gather once again with heavy hearts on this Shabbat. I think we're still in a state of shock at what has happened in our country. And this week, from last Shabbat till now, we saw the impeachment for the second time of the President of the United States. We learned of further revelations about the mob that stormed the Capitol of the United States. And we're in the heart of a pandemic that is unrelenting. Things are not yet getting better. They're getting worse. even as the vaccine so agonizingly slowly begins to roll out. So we gather on this Shabbat and this Martin Luther King weekend to confront the reality that is, but also to look forward with hope. And I want to mention that we'll be celebrating the legacy of Dr. King tonight. And it almost seems like a civic mitzvah and a religious mitzvah to celebrate that legacy. We'll be doing so in words and in music. And let me tell you, in some very special ways, I'll just give you a bit of a heads up here that in about a half a dozen songs, there will be combinations of pieces that subtly and not so subtly celebrate Dr. King's legacy. In the Lecha Dodi, there'll be a gospel twist with Amazing Grace as a foundational melody. When we sing Ahavat Olam, you'll hear refrains from Heal the World by Michael Jackson. During the Mi Chamocha, also with the gospel Rise and Shine. During the singing of Hashkivenu, Craig Taubman's contemporary melody will be blended with Matisyahu's One World, One Day. And finally, when we reach the end of the Amidah, that beautiful poetic meditation called Grant Us Peace, has been set to an original music composition by none other than our cantor. So look for, listen, and enjoy and imbibe the special music that also pays tribute to the legacy of Martin Luther King. Let's go right to Lecha Dodi. If you're following along in our gray prayer book, page 66.
Shabbat, nekabla.
Wow. I would like to bring that one to the African American Baptist Church, where I often spent many a Martin Luther King Sunday after their choir came to our synagogue. This was in Camden, New Jersey, next to Cherry Hill, New Jersey. In the middle of page 67, O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, and of the impulse within us for justice and mercy, we pray that this hour of worship may be one of vision and inspiration. Help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in search and in need, all who bring to this place the offering of their hearts. May our worship here lead us to fulfill our words and intentions with acts of kindness, peace, and love. Amen. Our call to worship, the Baruch Hu, page 70. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'hochma poteach sha'arim u'v'tvuna mishanei itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'mesader et hakochavim b'mishmeroteim berakia kirtzono. As day departs, as the dark of night descends, we lift our eyes to the heavens. In awe and wonder, our hearts cry out, Eternal God, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. On page 71, Ahavat Olam. Let's join together in the Shema, the bottom of page 71. That English rendition of the V'ahavta, Thou Shalt Love, was one of the first hits of Debbie Friedman. I remember when that first came out and was sung at the synagogue, and we knew that we were in the presence of a unique talent. And it was with Thou Shalt Love and several other of her early compositions that the Reform movement began to change from the classical mode of the European composers to this new folk participatory mode unique to America. And so I remember many a Sabbath with the new Thou Shalt Love, which we don't hear that often these days as the trend swung back to more traditional Hebrew, but it remains one that I love from my childhood even till today. Martin Luther King quoted from the Exodus more than from any other scripture because he saw inspiration in the story of our ancestors move from slavery to freedom. No doubt he was familiar with the words of the next prayer because they're taken from the book of Exodus, Michamocha, bottom of page 73. It's not often that we can bring music to our cantor. She's been bringing so much new music to us. But as we go to the Hashkivenu, now on page 74, it's going to be blended with a song that is very dear to our hearts here, One Day by Matisyahu. That song was sung in this congregation when it first came out, and for the last several years, we've been singing it as our confirmation class song, and it's been beautifully rendered by some of the singers in our congregation as well. Another song, so much in the spirit of King, looking forward to one day of peace and justice. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, v'kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Eternal God, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up to find our hearts waiting to do your will. The middle of page 75, V'shamru.
Vein you
invites God to let the divine presence suffuse our spirits, to let the divine will prevail in our lives. Prayer cannot bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. For the Tefillah, the Amidah prayer, page 76. On page 79 is a very meaningful interpretation of the Ritzei prayer. You are with us in our prayer, in our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, and pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. The Amidah concludes this evening on page 80 with the other beautiful interpretation of a prayer of Shalom Rav, as I mentioned in the community service that we had the evening after the storming of the Capitol with the two of our neighboring synagogues. This prayer, grant us peace, is one familiar from my childhood as well, because it has appeared in all of the Reform prayer books, from the Union Prayer Book to the Gates of Prayer to Mishkan Tfilah. And our cantor joined me at that community Zoom service and felt moved after that to set this Old English prayer to her own beautiful melody. Grant us peace.
Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country, that it may always be a stronghold of peace. Bless our country and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship amongst the inhabitants of all lands. Bless our country, that it may always be a stronghold of peace. Bless our country and its advocate among the nations. May the love of your name follow every home and every heart. Praise you, God, the source of peace. Grant us peace. Shalom.
Thank you so much, Cantor. That is truly moving. And the core of that prayer in the English is a prayer for peace in general, but a prayer, as it says, bless our country, that it may always be a stronghold of peace. In a sense, tonight, I feel like we need to be saying a Mishaberach prayer of healing for every American, because we all have, in a sense, been assaulted. We all feel violated, and we all feel the incredible rifts that are tearing this country apart. The capital of the United States, Washington, D.C., looks like it did during the Civil War as an armed garrison. If that's not a symbol of the civil discord, I don't know what is. And so, we take a moment to think about all our own loved ones in need of healing, because they, of course, come to mind first. And then we extend it to all those suffering in the pandemic, and then all those suffering because of the political virus raging throughout our country as well. And I think we sing the Mishaberach now for each and every one of our family members and our fellow citizens.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing and let us say, Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of the body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
Before our moment of silent prayer, I'd like to read the words that Martin Luther King spoke 55 years ago to a Jewish group, to the Synagogue Council of America. He spoke at length about the legacy of the Hebrew prophets, appropriately enough. And he said the Hebrew prophets belong to all peoples, because their concepts of justice and equality have become ideals for all races and civilization. Today we particularly need the Hebrew prophets, he continued, because they taught us that to love God is to love justice, that each human being has an inescapable obligation to denounce evil where he sees it, and to defy a ruler who commands him to break the covenant. The Hebrew prophets are needed today, he concludes, because decent people must be imbued with the courage to speak the truth, to realize that silence may temporarily preserve status or security, but to live with a lie is a gross affront to God. We pause. I do realize that there are some in our congregation, some people in all congregations who hold the view that politics should be kept off the pulpit. I've been here long enough that you know how strongly I disagree with that view, and in fact, feel that I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't speak when the times demanded it about the moral issues of the day. But recognizing that there are some that don't agree, I thought it was best this evening that we finish our service, and then I will offer my remarks, kind of similar to what I've been doing in the Zoom service. And in person in the synagogue, it's a little harder to walk out and not be noticed. But in a Zoom service and a live stream service where you're watching, if you prefer not to be part of that, it's your prerogative, and actually nobody will know. So what I'd like to do is continue with the Emuno and the Kaddish, and then I'll offer my remarks, and then we'll sing a song of peace to conclude our service this evening. So as we open the Ark for the Emuno, we turn to page 148.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גאולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים
On this Shabbat, we now call to mind in love and reverence those recently taken from our midst, Janet Bauer, mother of Lisa Klein. And on this Shabbat, in love and reverence, the Yortzeit, the anniversary of the passing of Dora Kramer, mother of Miriam Wohl, Sylvia Klein, mother of Richard Klein, John Camp, father of Doris White, Charlotte Green, mother of Jackie Green, Fred Stern, husband of Rachel Stern, father of Sidney Ann Stern, Louis Latterman, father of Pearl Waxman, Emmanuel Levy, father of Michael Levy, Frida Boimel, mother of Fanny Fishbein. For all those close to our hearts, for all those for whom there may be no one to say Kaddish, we join in the Kaddish prayer on page 154. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon, u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv ve'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam olamei almaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha b'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'hayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. I would like to just offer a few announcements. And I want to thank our trusty masters of the live streaming who are here this evening. The live stream does not happen without people who are dedicated to that task. And I also want to thank our cantor. This did such justice to King, to Shabbat, and to what we're trying to convey at this perilous time, which is that the work of justice and peace is never complete, far from it, and that though we often may be led to despair, we know that with hope in our hearts, progress will be made. This country was born with the original sin of slavery. And overcoming that slavery took the first Civil War. Overcoming the persistent legacy of segregation from slavery took another great struggle, the civil rights struggle. And I personally believe that we're now in a third phase of dealing with the legacy of the original sin of this country. First it was abject slavery, then it was segregation, and now it is battling supremacy, the remaining vestiges of white supremacy in this country. Tomorrow morning, Shabbat morning Torah study at 10 o'clock. We've just begun the book of Exodus, and we're looking at pieces of the Exodus story where the great commentator Rashi has an interesting and provocative comment. We seem to find that every week. Last week, Rashi talked about the difference between physical maturity and emotional maturity in his own language based on a comment about why it's said in the Torah, Vayigdal Moshe twice in two verses next to each other. He said, well, one refers to physical maturity, the other refers to emotional or spiritual maturity, and wow, did that lead to a whole discussion about what does it mean to really grow up. So that's an example of what we do in Torah study, and we'll be talking about the legacy of Martin Luther King at our religious school service at 9 o'clock on Sunday, and then again at confirmation class at 11 o'clock. I think that covers immediate announcements for this weekend. I do want to remind you as we go on with the playoffs in football, this means that we're still in our Super Bowl campaign. Soup. Bring it, put it in the porch, in the bin, and then I'm bringing it into the religious school building. The soup cans are piling up. Let's keep going with that. I also want to congratulate the Nitwits. I think that's the name they use for themselves, the knitters in the synagogue, because I saw some pictures of scarves that were delivered to a local hospital and also to immigration organization. Beautiful hand-knit scarves, all labeled nice. And that's just a wonderful mitzvah project that has been ongoing throughout the pandemic, just like the collection of our food. So thank you to them and to all our efforts to continue to have the knitting continue and the food collection continue. Rabbi Jeffrey Salkin is a colleague of mine. He happens to be a friend of mine, and I've had the opportunity to work very closely with Rabbi Jeff Salkin on his last two books because they were published by JPS. And his last book is one of our most important books. It's the JPS Binet Mitzvah Torah commentary, which I and rabbis all over the country use when we teach B'nai Mitzvah these days. So I consider Rabbi Salkin to be one of the most talented thinkers and writers in our movement today. And I'm just fortunate to have this close relationship with him. He used to live in New Jersey, but he currently is in Florida. And when I saw his column this week, I wrote to Rabbi Salkin. I said, Jeff, kol hakavod. What a column you have written, and it's so strong. And may I use it? May I share it with my congregation this Shabbat? And he said he was honored that we would do so. Maybe this is the last time that I will talk about our president, our current president. Maybe. If so, this is quite a send-off for Rabbi Salkin's words, and you can't appreciate it unless I read the whole thing. So I will do so, and then we will sing a final song in our service. Only 3 pages, but most of it single-spaced. And he entitled this piece, which was distributed by the Religious News Service. He has a regular blog with the Jewish Journal, the Los Angeles Jewish newspaper. If you are religious, When he mocked the reporters with disabilities, did you laugh or remain silent? Did you reflect on how such behavior violates core biblical teachings about people with disabilities and treating people like the image of God? When he boasted that he could grab women by their private parts, did you smirk or remain silent? Did you notice that such words violate religious teachings about respect for women and the proper expression of sexuality? When he urged violence against reporters, did you cheer him on or remain silent? When he called for a ban on Muslims entering this country, did you rationalize that or remain silent? When he commented on the neo-Nazis marching in Charlottesville and mentioned that there were very good people on both sides, did you nod in agreement or remain silent? When he stood silently as his supporters called for the kidnapping of Michigan government Gretchen Whitmer, did you say that you could understand their frustration or remain silent? When he lied numerous times every day, did you shrug it off or remain silent? When he characterized Mexicans as rapists, drug dealers, and animals, did you smile? Or did you ask yourself how your religious tradition views the stranger and the immigrant? When he denied climate change, defying science, did you say, well, that's his opinion, or remain silent? When he used the Bible as a prop in front of a church in Washington, D.C., and held it upside down, did you applaud his feigned religiosity, or did you say, wait, that's my holy book? When you heard that he was pro-life, did you embrace that stance without question? Or did you somehow reason that it is confusing to care about fetuses and not about real children in cages? I could continue with this litany, or as would be appropriate, chant it according to a Haftarah melody. But I want to narrow my focus away from that generalized thing called religion and focus on my own people, my fellow Jews, and those who proclaim my faith. President Trump won, according to the best estimates, somewhere between 20 and 30% of the American Jewish vote. And that includes some of my best friends, relatives, and cherished congregants. Now, I don't want to demonize them. They had their reasons for doing so, and I have long advocated that we need fruitful, heartfelt conversations about politics and values so that the various sides of the political chasm can hear each other. But if you are a Jew and you say you care about Judaism and its religious teachings, well, know that our faith is built on questions. Matter of fact, you can't get out of the Passover Seder with encountering at least 4 questions. So let me continue with some questions. When he said that he only wanted Jews and not black people to count his money, did you laugh or did you frown? When he pretended not to know who David Duke was and initially declined to refuse his support, was that acceptable or did you think that something was wrong? When he retweeted an image of a Jewish star superimposed over a pile of cash, did you question it or were you disturbed? When you read his quote about Jews, a lot of you are in the real estate business because I know you very well. You're brutal killers, not nice people at all. But you have to vote for me. You have no choice. Did you applaud or begin to sweat? When he told the Republican Jewish coalition, "You're not going to support me because I don't want your money. You want to control your politicians, that's fine." Did you smile knowingly, or did you say, "Wait a minute"? When he addressed an audience of American Jews and referred to Israel as your country, did you agree, or did you say to yourself, "Well, the United States is my country"? When he constantly hemmed and hawed about the Proud Boys, the alt-right and other anti-Semitic groups, did you skip over that and find other reasons to continue your support, or did you start to worry? When you watched what happened on January 6th, 2021, did you say, "Well, but he moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem"? Or did you ask yourself, there is an affirmation of the embassy in Jerusalem, and there is an attack in Washington. Which of these is more important? When you watched what was unfolding on January 6th, did you see the faces of the barbarians who attacked the Capitol? Did you realize they were coming for our elected officials? Did you at least once ask yourself what Judaism thinks about government? Did you see the gallows that was erected? Did you see the guy with the flag of the Confederacy? Did you see the guy with the Camp Auschwitz t-shirt? Did you look at this crowd whose actions were truly beyond measure deplorable? Would you have felt at home in their midst? Did you think about Germany in the 1930s at least one time this week? Did you ask yourself then, is this what my support of this man has finally wrought? All this time, for the past 4 years and beyond, did you say anything? Or did you say nothing? Did you ever read that little slice of the Talmud that says, silence implies consent? If all this time you looked away and you were silent, did you really mean for your silence to be consent?
Oh
Shabbat Shalom.